Hi, hello, vanakkam, and welcome back to yet another episode on Little's Law YouTube channel. So, in this video, we are going to see about completely different from our regular videos. So, this is something about the career choices because many of my network people in the LinkedIn or my subscribers in Little's Law were asking about is DevOps a good career choice since they were working as a developer or they were working as they were a freshers and they were working as a functional tester or an automation tester or a professional performance engineer. So they ask me this question regularly in chats and in the comment section, that is DevOps a good career choice and is it worth to become a DevOps engineer? So in this video, we'll see about that. So the first thing is there is no doubt working as a DevOps engineer, since the DevOps engineer is the one who enables the DevOps culture. In fact, it is too challenging and it is cutting edge and financially rewarding because that's, even though it's the last priority, but it's the most welcoming priority when choosing a career choice. And since DevOps engineering is too challenging, it is a relatively new career with the right technical skills. And it is also highly relevant in the workplace, and it's ideal if you are looking something to grow in both the technological and interpersonal challenges. In fact, DevOps is an intelligent job transition if you have been doing software development, networking, or operations. So it covers every area of the IT. And this DevOps engineers, so what they do? So they do a lot of automation, they do monitoring, they do testing, they work on configuring, they work on networking, and finally they work on infrastructure as a code, which we normally call as IAC. That means we will need to bring a variety of skills and talents to the table. So since we were covering all these areas, it clearly tells us that it's a highly technical role that's usually best left to the experienced engineers. And there is some opportunity in the DevOps field for entry level engineers too, but most of the jobs require experience. So, is it worth to become a DevOps engineer? And do we have to look at it like what are all the options and how does it work? So, let's see that in detail in this video. So, firstly, let's see what is DevOps. So, a DevOps engineer uses his skills or her skills to deliver software quickly, continuously, and reliably. And the goal of DevOps is to shorten the software delivery and feedback cycles. So, this DevOps pros typically orchestrate multiple components in a cloud environment, and they are the one who make sure the system keeps running smoothly day after day. In fact, 24 cross 7. So these DevOps professionals also keep things up to date with the latest changes and security updates. So most of the times we might receive a security update asking us to update our iPhone or an Android phone or even our Windows security updates, or in fact most of the applications that we use, something like a banking application or whatever it is. So they might be down sometime at, if you are looking or if you want to make some transactions after some 12 p.m., 12 a.m., midnight. So the application would be down. So those time is where the DevOps engineers do the changes, or they apply the changes to the live environment or to the any other environment practically. So they automate testing, they do scanning and deploying. And if there would have been DevOps, so where did DevOps come from? DevOps evolved as a cultural phenomenon. Recently, companies have created specialist DevOps roles to help create and support their culture. There are so many specialized tools and skills in the IT side of every business that supports DevOps. And since, due to this huge support, DevOps is increasingly a full time job. While DevOps has certainly changed how we develop software, it has also fundamentally changed how software is deployed. And this is largely thanks to the general availability and lower cost of cloud infrastructure, the containers, and the evolution of tools that enable automation. So now we are in 2023. Is it still? So is DevOps is still a good career in 2023? So working in DevOps is not a bad way to spend your time. As a field, DevOps is experiencing job growth. Furthermore, the jobs in DevOps pay more than the average tech or any computer science job, and there are some level of upward and horizontal mobility too. So now let's see what are the three reasons we consider DevOps is a good career. So the first thing is there is a massive DevOps job growth. To say that jobs in the DevOps field are growing would be an understatement. In fact, in this decade, in this software field, it's growing at a pace of 22% comparing to the 8% growth of any other jobs. While DevOps are only part of that growth, it's still substantial. So for example, that DevOps job growth is only 5% with 1.8 million jobs in the field now, that 5% growth means almost 90,000 new DevOps jobs. And given the popularity of DevOps jobs with employers, 5% is almost certainly a low estimate. So the second point is the high salary for DevOps jobs. DevOps jobs pay very well like any other IT job in IT. If you are into being paid comfortably and you have the right qualifications, you are probably already looking at salaries for DevOps jobs. So the average base salary for a DevOps engineer in US is 1 to 5 grands and upwards to 300K. So there are just two examples of average pay. The range is fairly wide, but still the pay is quite nice for a 9 to 5 job. Of course, there is always some variability in the market depending on the location, experience, and the company you end up working for. The upward mobility. So this is the third factor, and there is some upward mobility for DevOps engineers depending on the company. You might find a career path for a from junior engineer all the way up to DevOps architect. If you have the right stuff, you may even end up managing the department. And it's also possible to transition to similar low roles like you might have come across the SRE, the Site Reliability Engineer. Of course, the higher you go, the fewer positions are available. And DevOps offers plenty of horizontal mobility, say since DevOps engineering skills usually translate between industries, plus it doesn't make too much of a difference whether the company makes widgets or life insurance. The work in DevOps is generally the same. So what you will do in a DevOps position? Depending on the company and your specific DevOps role, we might end up working on any number of issues. Our role may relate to automation, infrastructure, tooling, quality, or monitoring. The automation aspect includes code deployment, environment and infrastructure configuration, and even automatic quality checks. The goal of all these automation is to speed up delivery without sacrificing quality or security. And much of the work is setting up, monitoring, and alerting for the automation and production systems. And monitoring and alerting are important aspects of feedback loops that power continuous improvement. So now we will see the downside of a DevOps career. So if there is something which takes up, so there should be the other way around. There are few key downsides of a career in DevOps, including a high pressure atmosphere. So you will be having to work back to back. Work will be assigned to you, and there are lack of recognition and frustrations from heads with other technical teams. We may also feel like a rabbit running in a field of turtles as you champion cutting edge and advancements while the rest of your organization slogs behind. And most of the work in DevOps happens behind the scenes. So technically, in other words, our achievements won't be put on display, and we might get zero recognitions outside our branch in the organization. In less collaborative environments, DevOps engineers might face frustrations with other technical teams. So when coming to the next point, which is out on the bleeding edge, so there may be situations where the goals of DevOps run counter to the goals of other groups that are slow to change or adopt complementary practices. The tools can sometimes be frustrating to work with, and in the real world, any number of things can go wrong at any given time. And part of our job in DevOps is to make sure systems are running well. And if something goes wrong, we may have to work outside our normal hours to resolve the problem. And we may feel intense pressure from extremely high expectations, especially during the challenging times. And mostly during the peak hours or during the season times or during the holiday seasons, mostly. So we might need someone to support the system if something goes wrong. And if you are ready for that, you are always welcome to choose the DevOps role. So the next one is DevOps right for us, for you. By now, we should have the answer to the question, is DevOps a good career? If you still do not have, still you might not know if DevOps is right for you. So if you are still looking for it, here are a few questions to help make up your mind. So the first question is, are you interested in automation? So if you are someone who is interested in automation, that's 1 point for team DevOps. If you prefer coordinated manual deployments, maybe a DevOps environment won't be the best for you. DevOps teams do a lot of automation. The second one is, do you like the DevOps framework? So the DevOps framework is a set of behaviors that seeks close collaboration between software development and operations. And if using communication processes and tools to tighten that loop is appealing, you would do well in a DevOps environment. Do you like being in charge of infrastructure? DevOps engineers play a vital role in establishing and maintaining the infrastructure that runs applications. And most often, the actual infrastructure is provided by a cloud vendor. The work of DevOps engineers is to configure the rendered infrastructure for efficient operations of applications. It's very interesting to work if you like fine tuning and solving data flow problems. So, what are the skills we might need for DevOps career? So, let's now see what are the right skills to be a DevOps engineer. And the main spirit of becoming a DevOps engineer is to identify that we do have the right culture, adapt the automation, the right measurement and sharing, which we normally call as CAMS, C-A-M-S. So now we will see what are the top 8 DevOps skills. The first one is interpersonal. DevOps is a culture of sharing. It helps to have good interpersonal skills, and part of the job is reaching out to others and helping others achieving their goals. And in fact, if things will go wrong from time to time, we will have to work on fixing it. And when they do, our interpersonal skills will go a long way toward helping others to come on top. The next one is programming language. And if we are thinking about a career in DevOps, we should know how to code at a very basic level. That's a very basic expectation if you are or if we are looking to be a DevOps engineer. And much of the work involves writing shell scripts or using a coding language such as Python to automate tasks, and we might need to write Python scripts to call various APIs or use shell scripts to manipulate files. And some DevOps roles require knowledge of VB scripts and Windows PowerShell. So either way, we should have a foundation of coding so we can learn the nuts and bolts of the environment. The third one is the automated build or test. So one of the core principle of DevOps is automation. So automating builds will take us towards consistency, reliability, and traceability. And once that's done, it's time to automate the tests for the build. And sometimes this demands a big shift in thinking and a whole lot of work. Still, it's a big win when we can get to automated build and test, and DevOps culture centers around this kind. So we may write tests using Selenium, Postman, the Robo framework, or any other types of automated testing tools, and we will have to incorporate these tools into the automated release process. The next, the most expected one is the containers. We'll use containers in our careers as a DevOps engineer, and many organizations are either using or switching to containers for several types of workloads. So, a container is an isolated environment, runtime environment, that includes most of the operating system and it runs on a server or a virtual machine. And we can launch containers quickly, making them ideal for running tasks fast, a key focus in DevOps work. And the fifth one is configuration. So configuration is another task DevOps engineers spend lots of time. Actually, most of the work in automating is configuring the systems that perform the work. And even the infamous infrastructure as code is really about configuring the infrastructure and the environment using a specification, a specific language. And DevOps culture prefer using infrastructure as code because infrastructure as code tracks changes, which lets DevOps to measure the effect. And there's nothing worse than tracking down a problem without knowing a configuration change. In DevOps, we may want to monitor events, all the events. And the sixth one is the version control. So along with one of the tools we will use frequently as a DevOps engineer, the Linux based operating system, we'll mostly likely use another version or another invention, which is the Git. So we might use another version control system like Subversions or TFS. So they all do the same general thing, which is keeping track of changes to the code base. So this version control is another most high prioritized one which any DevOps engineer should be aware of or should be expertise in. So for automated delivery pipelines, we will keep the configuration under version control and we will store the infrastructure as a code files in the version control system as well. And often a virtual version control system is hosted on a platform that runs a pipeline and can be configured to kick off automation. The version control system is also the heart of a change management in a DevOps world. And then comes the package. So the developers from different groups or project often need the same type of features. They might need logging, authentication, or any kind of functionality plugged in to a software development environment. And this DevOps culture embraces sharing, so it denies often package functionality, and DevOps engineers might even dive in and create these packages to share, or they just manage package repositories both public and private. And note that package repositories are another possible destination for delivery. And finally, the networking. If a problem is not a code error, it's probably something in the network. And networking is another critical skill in a DevOps role. It could be enough to know the IP protocol, but you will often need an understanding of the certificates, the routing, and any other the networking terminologies. So even in a cloud environment, it's important to know how networks and subnetworks operate, and even containers have their own type of network configurations to consider. So to summarize, DevOps is a great career in 2023 and even beyond 2023. And if we are interested in the crossover between development and operations, it could be a field for us. With six-figure salaries, swift job growth, and plenty of upward mobility, the future of DevOps is bright. If we have felt strongly that DevOps is a good career to get into, then definitely give it a shot. Wish you all the best. So for more videos on DevOps, especially on Azure DevOps or AWS or Google, we are having a planning to come up with more videos. If you're still interested and you want to learn more into DevOps area, please do subscribe to our channel and follow the videos. Thank you. So until we meet you in another interesting video, it's bye from Vasan Shanmugam and Little Slaw.